Everybody, and welcome to class. Let's begin in a seated position and just let your backs of your hands rest on your knees, palms facing up. And you can take a Jnana Mudra if you wish, or just let the digits loose, and then let's close down the eyes. Let yourself dive into the breath. And as we inhale, letting the rib cage spread at the sides, so lateral expansion. And then control the deflation of the lungs as you exhale, feeling the side ribs coming together again, creating a narrower shape in the rib cage, allowing us to sit a little taller. And then on the next inhale, maintaining that tallness and feeling the lateral expansion of the ribs again. On the next exhale, then allowing yourself to find that plunger energy of the bandhas as you lift up into your core strength. And then continuing that conscious dance, that interplay between inhale and exhale, and all of the energies that they inspire. Bringing balance to the body, helping the mind to focus. Noticing any or all sensations that are coming into your body. Feelings, ripples, tingles, itches, aches. Just be there for it all, witnessing the rise and fall of all of these feelings and sensations. And we'll take the palms together into our Anjali Mudra. Excuse me. We'll do our chant, taking a slow breath in. Yogena Chittasya Padena Vacham Malam Sharirasya Chavaidhyakena Yopakarotam Pravaramuninam Patanjalim Pranjali Ranatosmi. Returning your hands to their initial position or changing if you wish. And becoming aligned with your breath again, following all the way to the top of your inhale. Smoothly changing the tides and then follow all the way to the bottom of your exhale. As we pay close attention to the breath, we are not only entering into a pranayama practice, but we're also allowing ourselves to make space in the mind for focus rather than constant chatter, tortured distraction. When we work into the pranayamic energies and encourage ourselves to focus, we can bring that through as a transferable skill off our mat into our daily lives. We can connect with our breathing to help us to be present, to maintain a sense of equilibrium if we're dealing with frustration or other difficult emotions that might arise because of the people you're in contact with or the situations that have happened to you. So we can use this as a mighty tool for finding steadiness. As we enter into springtime, days are longer, hopefully getting brighter. And we realize that we are at the beck and call of Mother Nature and all her changes, expected or unexpected. We are animals when we are embodied as humans and living on planet Earth. And we need practices like yoga, like meditation, like pranayama, like asana to help us to weather the storm. We acknowledge our animal nature, and in the same breath, we know that we can be so much more with the loving discipline of a regular practice. We celebrate this opportunity and how privileged we are to have a look into this yoga, these teachings, and be able to have the time, the energy, and the desire to practice them. Before we go into the philosophical discourse and the meditation practices, let's do a little bit of asana just to help us to come into our bodies and be present in that way. So let's take the hands to the floor, lean back slightly, let the legs go out in front of you. And we'll just casually let one leg drape over the other. So let's choose the right leg just for ease of instruction so we're all on the same page. Right leg just on top of the left leg. And you can stay seated on your meditation raise if you wish, or you can come off it. Now we're not working into full extension through the knees, but we're not kind of purposely bending them either. Take an inhale to rise up. Let your nose and your eyes gaze up towards the ceiling as you lift the arms. And then exhale, we'll come forwards, taking hold of that left foot. Dorsiflex it. If you can't reach the foot, you can use a strap or simply take the hands to the floor somewhere in alignment with your ankles, your calves, your thighs, whatever suits you there. And then we'll take another little half lift inhale and then exhale to just drape the upper body forwards. Keep the head slightly up, looking forwards, lengthening through all four sides of the neck. And breathe deeply. Working into the left hamstrings there, a little into the lower back also. And a slight little stretch for the right hip. If you've got the mobility, you can take that right elbow to the ground, leaning the left forearm on the inner right leg. And up we come Now we'll keep that left leg where it is for now, and we'll bend the right knee out to the side for Janu Shirshasana. Just let your hips stay aligned. So that means your right knee will be coming forwards, and there's quite a lot of dorsiflexion in this right ankle. So it's like a kind of tree leg when we're standing, say for example, in this case on the left foot. The right foot would be to the inner thigh like in tree, and we'll come forwards again, inhaling up. Exhaling, taking hold of that left foot. Inhaling, half lift, and then exhale, folding forwards. Again, keeping the head slightly up. We don't want to squash the back of the neck or anything, but do keep the gaze forwards. Again, if you've got the range, elbows come down to the ground. And rather than thinking forehead to shin, we're thinking ribs to thigh. So it's more hip flexion than spinal rounding. Squeezing the shoulder blades back. So we never force or bounce a stretch. It's more the energy of waiting. Come to where you can come to, wait patiently, breathe, and see what your body has to offer. If it wants to take you further, it will. If it doesn't, don't force it. Good, and then we'll come up. Now from here, we'll take that left leg out to the side. For this, I'm going to come off my raise. You can stay on your raise if you're more comfortable there. And we'll come into a little side bend. But first, let your right foot plantar flex. So you're on the top of the foot. This is where you might need the raise if the hips aren't open yet. If the top of the foot isn't coming to the ground, if your shin isn't touching the ground, then have a little raise under the pelvis. And we'll just externally rotate this left arm and slide the knuckles of the left hand along the floor. Maybe you can touch that inner left heel with your left index finger. And up we go with the right arm. Inhale, and then exhale, taking the right hand behind the skull. Let your skull be sort of generous as it sinks back into the hand, and you've got plenty of space underneath this. Chin opening through the neck, and gently allow yourself to add a little bit of an element of a twist. So yeah, it's a side bend, but we're making sure that we don't fall forwards. Reach your right elbow up to the ceiling. Start to look up to the ceiling slightly, if it feels okay. Make sure you're stacking the right side of the chest over the left side of the chest. And then we come back up. So from there, we'll take the right leg out in front of us, casually drape the left leg on top. You can sit back up onto your raise again, or you can stay off it, whatever feels good. Inhale to lift the arms up. And exhale, we'll reach, taking hold of that right foot. Or the hands can come in line with the ankles, the calves, the thighs, whatever feels good. And then inhale, half lifting. And exhale, folding forwards. Gaze slightly up or forwards. Again, if you've got the range, left elbow will come to the floor quite easily, but don't force that. It's not a priority. The hamstring stretch is. Ribs draping over that left leg. Engaging the bandhas. Lifting up. Just to clarify, for those of you who might be joining us who don't know what bandhas are, it's a Sanskrit word for an energy lock. So what we're doing here is we're making sure that we don't squander the energy. We know how it feels if we completely release the belly and the pelvic floor. We feel a little bit apathetic. It's difficult to have a good posture. We're not infusing ourselves with that power. So when we lift up the muscles of the pelvic floor and the lower belly, when we engage them and they rise up, they're supporting the diaphragm. That contributes to better breath. It allows us to maintain this sort of internal flow of prana or energy in the body, and it makes our meditations, obviously our breath work and our asanas, our postures, much more powerful. So our yoga practices in all its different scenes and contexts, should never deplete us. When we engage the bandhas, that's the energy of lifting the core muscles. When we engage those, when we're mindful, present, breathing, our yoga practices will give us energy. It will never deplete us of it. So it's an important component there. Okay, I held us a little bit long on that side. Apologies, coming back up, and then we'll keep that right leg where it is. Bend the left knee as if into a tree leg. Dorsiflexing that left ankle quite strongly. And then let's go again. Inhale up and exhale, taking hold of the right foot again and coming forwards. Elbows to ground, ribs to thigh, gaze forwards towards the toes or maybe a little further past the toes. Again, modifying if you need to. There's huge wisdom in modifying. You go to where your body wants to go to. It could be here even, or you can use a strap. Good, and then up we come. We'll take the left or the right leg out to the side, and then the left knee is bending a little bit more. Take that left heel in towards the groin and let yourself come onto the top of that left foot so you can see the sole of your foot. That might require a little elevation for the pelvis. And then we'll skim the right knuckles along the ground. Maybe you touch your inner right heel with your index finger. We're not trying to grab the foot or anything like that. Inhale, left arm elevates, and then exhale, bend it. Take left hand behind head, and then just give your skull to the left hand. So it's a side bend, meaning we're flexing laterally or moving to the side, and then we stretch the opposite side to the direction we're going in. But we're bringing a little flavor of twist here, as if we're trying to spin the heart up towards the ceiling, and it increases the side bend. We're keeping good alignment here. All these stretches are excellent for general fitness and health of the body, but they're particularly good in our meditation practice. They allow us to get strong and mobile so that sitting tall in a cross-legged position for longer periods of time is feasible. So this is a pre-meditation of sorts. And then up we come. And then we're going to come into downward facing dog. Now, if your meditation station is soft like mine and it's not gripped like a yoga mat, that's okay. Downward facing dog can be a very interesting thing to do when you're not on a sticky mat. So you can try that out if you wish, but if you feel that you need the support of grip, then go onto your yoga mat for this. So legs can be straight, heels can be down, or knees can be bent with heels up. Find what allows you to lengthen your spine as much as possible. Drop the head down so your neck is free and keep your breathing steady. Engaging the bandhas, so lifting up pelvic floor muscles, lower belly lifts up. And then support that lift on the external body by drawing your front ribs to your back ribs. So you're not losing a connection between upper and lower body. The energy is able to flow easily. Now start to walk your hands back and we'll come into Uttanasana, so a forward fold. If your hands are easily on the ground and you feel you want to go further, take hold of your elbows and take your elbows to the ground, drop your head. If this isn't plausible yet and you're somewhere here, that's okay. Maybe you want to be here so you can experience the forward bend with straight legs. Just let your head drop. We'll hold here for a few breaths. And then roll yourself up to a standing position, and we'll come into tree pose when you're ready. So we'll stand on the left leg and we'll lift the right leg up. You can take the right foot to the inner thigh by the groin, or you can take it lower down by the calf muscle, or you can even still have the right tippy toes on the ground and just lean your right heel on the inner ankle. Hands come to prayer or Jaya Mudra. Looking forwards, gaze is steady. Now with tree pose, it's important that you don't swing into the standing hip. So push that left thigh into the right foot as much as you're pushing the right foot into the left thigh. Engage your bum, that will help. Lift your pelvic floor, your lower belly, join it all together and breathe. And don't worry if you feel very wibbly wobbly in this. These postures can be excellent gateways to finding more strength. So speak nicely to yourself if you're losing your balance. It's all part of the practice. Everything that requires effort that you find challenging in this practice, in these teachings, is designed to make you stronger, make you more steady, make you more capable and agile, mentally and physically. So just go with it. If you're wibbly wobbling, just go with it. If you fall off the horse, jump back on again. Hands come down to heart. Release right leg, taking hold of your left ankle. And as I said, you can have the foot here, you can have it here, you can have it here, wherever suits. And then we're pressing like a clap, pressing foot into thigh, thigh into foot in equal measure. So you're not swinging out towards the side of the standing leg. Really push, trying to push that outer leg in, push the lifted foot out, equal measure. Hands to prayer or up to Jaya Mudra. Pick a gaze that is steady, so pick a spot on the wall ahead of you, breathing there. And then taking the hands down, releasing the left leg. And we'll finish with a little twist and another downward dog. So take your right foot forwards, let your left knee come down onto the ground, but have a fairly handsome stance. So you're long enough in distance away between the right heel and the left knee that you can drop your hips down low. Left hand comes to floor, about shoulder distance away from right foot. And you can let your left hip drop a little bit, but keep your bum, particularly your right buttock, engaged so you don't swing out to the side. And then we lift the right arm up. Now, if earlier on in our side bend, you found it comfortable to take the hand at the back of the head, then go for it. I really like this way of coming into an opening across the chest. You can guide where your head is so it's aligned with the spine. You're not squishing any neck vertebrae. But you can also open through the front of the shoulder a little bit more. If you want to go further with this, of course, you can lift that back knee, straightening the leg. And then coming down, and we'll switch. So left foot forwards, right knee down initially. Right hand to the floor, about shoulder distance away from the left foot. Again, big long stance, so you can drop the hips down low without pushing too much force into the front knee. Left arm can lift up or left hand behind head. Just find your freedom there. Again, as I said earlier, with the mobility training aspect of the yoga postures, we're really being very polite with the body. We want to challenge, yes, but we never want to push past where it's willingly going. That can actually be counterproductive. It can make us stiffer. The body will sort of have a self-defense response. If you're feeling okay with this, really lifting now into that right knee, letting the thighs straighten. Keep your breathing steady. And then we take the hand down and we step back into downward facing dog one last time. Again, heels can be down with legs straight, provided your back is very long. You're stretching under the arms. Otherwise, bend the knees, lift the heels. I assure you, this makes the process of concentration and then the follow-up process of meditation, it makes it way, way more accessible when we have a good, healthy, bespoke asana practice beforehand. Good, and then when you're ready, either coming down to the knees and crawling over to your meditation station or getting up to stand and walking back over, whichever suits. And then we'll come to our seated cross-legged position again. So let your eyes close, checking in again with your breath and with your sensations. Hopefully feeling a little bit more enlivened after the asana practice. Energy's flowing well. We can maintain a little bit of bandha action, lifting up, keeping that energy in the body for ourselves, not squandering it. Feeling into the lateral expansion of the lungs, but also into the back as well, the posterior expansion. So the space between the shoulder blades and all the way down the back ribs, almost to the kidneys really. As we inhale, that can enlarge as well. And as we exhale, controlling slowly as we deflate the lungs and sit tall. So the basic concept for today's session is that we can utilize this journey, this human curriculum on planet Earth, as a gateway into freedom, into spiritual evolution, as a way to help us to step on a path that is aligned with our potential. When we speak in these terms in the yoga practice, it's important to acknowledge that we're amazing as biological forms. The human species is rather resilient and pretty interesting. So we're not in any way ignoring the animal nature. But what we're trying to do in our yoga practice is, as we live as animals, as the human animals that we are, we have options. There are portals and gateways that present themselves at every turn. And we have choices. And we can make decisions based on higher vibrational choices. We don't always have to go into our lower instincts. And without being preachy at all, I'm just being completely real here. The state of what's going on with 52 countries at war is hard evidence that there are many human beings who are just existing in the vibration of their most base and destructive instincts. We also have within us the capacity to collaborate and to come together. Tribal life doesn't have to mean that there is war against tribes. Tribal life means that we can actually make things better together. So we have that capacity too. It isn't just human nature to be at war, but it requires a bit more practice to come from grace, understanding, and love. So we have that potential. Through yoga, we are trying to access that potential. So there are many gateways. When we see hatred, it is an opportunity to broaden into love. When we witness willful ignorance, we are invited to explore wisdom. When we feel frustration, we can slow down our breath and turn a potential conflict into a pranayama practice. When we are on the receiving end of an insult, there is an option to understand with compassion. You get the idea. Literally everything is a gateway. And when we talk about Darwinian evolution, obviously in the context of us being the human animal, there are biological evolutions for sure. But when we're talking in terms of yogic evolution, we are tuning into a slightly different energy. So it's not monkey see, monkey do. It's monkey see, monkey overcome. There is no doubt that our nervous systems can sense the pain, the violence, the threat. Our fear, our stress response, our survival mode kicks in. But if we get locked in that kind of response chronically, that's when individual fear becomes collective persecution, racism, war. And so if the individual is not working on herself or himself, if we're just sliding into the groove of base instincts, we experience harm, so therefore we want to harm someone else. If we stay stuck in that pattern individually, then of course collectively that results in war being normalized. But it's not normal. It's not normal. War, at the very, very least, should be a last resort. And what has happened now is that it is becoming a first resort. Too easily, click of a finger, there's war. So the collective spiritual evolution cannot occur if we are aligned with constant self-defense. And even if we ourselves are not in clear and present danger, our mind can make us believe we are. It's very strange, but we've all been there. Our mind will try to protect us from uncertainty. But we can really change that around. Fear of the unknown can be a gateway to faith or trust, for example. So rather than when we encounter our tendency to drop into the more base instincts, like hatred or self-righteousness, I did this because he did that, all of that kind of stuff. We can really reframe it. Because we know, we can feel when we're just being controlled by fear. We can feel when we say or think something nasty. We know on a fundamental level it's wrong. We know it's not nourishing or nurturing the spirit. We know we're stunting our own growth, both individually and collectively, when we think and act like that. It just takes us into a different realm where we just wake up and calm down. Good balance there. Where we wake up and calm down, connect to our breath. And we can choose another way. We can be faced with two doors in every moment of life, and instead of taking the door that's already open and easy, because you'll have plenty of people on your team to justify bad behavior if they're not working on themselves. Right, so we can instead choose the other door. We don't always have to do the opposite of what our instinct says. We just refine our thought processes. We take some time and some space. We choose a better road. The door to that road might be harder to open, but you know deep down it will feel better, and it will be better for you and everyone else. And this is not only about working on ourselves so that the wholeness of us, as in humans, can be more united, more evolved, resonating at a higher vibration. But it's also the work that we're doing to heal ourselves. There's a Buddhist concept of the second arrow. I think I've done it with you guys before, where, for example, somebody shoots you with an arrow. That arrow represents or symbolizes some kind of hurt, some kind of harm, some kind of abuse, some kind of insult, verbal, physical, whatever shape harm can take. There's a myriad of options. And even when the aggressor has gone out of the picture, we tend to then shoot ourselves with a second arrow. How we perpetuate a cycle that is harmful, particularly if the first arrow was shot at us when we were a child. That's what we learn. That's what's been modeled for us. So if we learn at an impressionable age that harm is normal, we harm ourselves. It sounds a little trite and a little sort of oversimplified, but it is the truth. If all we learn is that we're unworthy, that we're not good enough, that we're ugly, that we're unintelligent, that we're inferior in some way because of our race, our gender, our social status, our education or lack thereof, if that's brought to us from a parental figure or somebody in our environment, we grow up thinking, okay, I'm less than. And we shoot a second arrow to ourselves, and it becomes self-harm. And yes, the initial perpetrators are and were wrong. 100%, no doubt. You should never harm a child. You should never harm anyone. But also, yes, we have the option to go through another door, choose another path, enter into a different portal, see an alternative gateway, and walk tall as we walk through it. So hopefully we prevent ourselves from shooting the second arrow, or indeed, if it's in already, we take it out. So even if you were mistreated, misunderstood, unsupported, you have the ability to step out of the cycle of hurting yourself. It's easier to just reenact the neglect and abuse, the bad behavior of, say, a toxic family system, or even if you had a wonderful family, a toxic societal norm. The real work, in inverted commas, is choosing a different gateway and walking another path. That's where the work is, actually. So rather than just blaming the people who warped us and molded us in a way that kept us low and small, we can realize, oh, I shot the second arrow. And just for a few moments every day, we can really look into that and really see all of the things that we have done and said to ourselves that were as bad or even worse than the initial wound. And we can slowly start to turn around. This is not to blame us. It's also not to blame them, but rather just to have the sensibility to recognize, there is always another way. And in these meditation sessions on Mondays that we enjoy together, we often explore the practices of love and peace as espoused by the great yogis, the rishis, and people through time who have stood up for what's right, who have chosen the higher road. So it's about that, yes, it's about living the truth and practicing unconditional love. And at the same time, it's also about recognizing where we might be keeping the wound open ourselves. What part we're playing in our own suffering and destruction. And to dive right in there so we can overcome it, rather than ignoring it and continuing a very poisonous and windy road. And so we notice things. It can be and is different for everybody. We can maybe notice that there was a family member who told us we weren't good enough, that people would laugh at us. There can be someone who said you were unintelligent or a little crazy. It can be something somebody said in passing without even really meaning to hurt us. We're sensitive, so we feel. And that could be enough to teach us to always choose the wrong gateway as we grow up. It's a conditioning of sorts. And we know, as I said at the very beginning, our practices are a gateway to freedom. And so if we do truly weave in these practices into our daily lives, into our discourse with ourselves, into our attention, awareness, and cognition, we can actually be free of all of those shackles. But this isn't just a concept to entertain. This is a workable, teachable practice that we have to really make an effort. So when we're really making an effort, we can see, yes, there's where I'm sliding backwards again. There's where I'm believing the lies. There's where I'm behaving in the way that the person who hurt me was behaving. And we work in every moment to change. Not to change into what our inner critic wants, because the voice of the inner critic is just a continuation of the voice of the outer critic, of the person who harmed you. But to change back to who we are supposed to be. Our highest selves, our better selves, our healed selves. You catch my drift, I'm sure. So taking maybe one example of something that was done to you or said to you that changed the course of your existence and forced you into becoming somebody that you're not. And look at how your own belief system forced you to shoot that second arrow into yourself. That's where the work is. That's where the practice is. And that's where the evolution can happen. So just work with that now for the next couple of minutes. Stepping back into breath awareness as you do this. Sitting tall. Using all the strength and the energy that we gathered in our posture practice. And then just let it go. Sitting in silence after that. And maybe revisit that work tomorrow. Don't traumatize yourself, don't force yourself, just enter into that realization of how you might be harming yourself because of what you were taught directly or indirectly by the harm from others. So picking that one example, and from that awareness, let meditation arise. On your next exhale, taking the palms together into Anjali Mudra. We'll chant for peace. Peace in our own hearts and minds. Peace in our families and communities. And peace through the whole world. This is our intention. This is our practice. Taking a slow breath in. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Our final mudra representing taking all we've learned from our practices and bringing it into our hearts, bowing forwards to each other and to this present moment. Coming back up, the spirit in me recognizes the spirit in you. Namaste. Taking the hands up to Atmanjali Mudra, acknowledging the seat of consciousness, the soul, and palms to the ground, connecting with the earth. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for exploring yourselves and your practice with me today. I hope you have a lovely day.